This symposium, which is titled Neoliberalism in Motion, Consolidation of Divergence, Sociological Perspectives on Neoliberalism and Global Presence, was conceived by Ms. Chinese Jiang, who is one of the presenters, and also organized with the help of her. Organized with the help of her comrades in arms in the graduate program. Ms. John and three of the other students are from Sofia and one is from Wasa, and we worked very hard to pull this all together. And so today, we're happy everything's smoothly.
Anyone with even a passing familiarity with the world of development and global poverty policy has encountered what is perhaps the world's most widely circulated development cliche. It is the slogan, sometimes dubiously attributed as a Chinese proverb, that reads, you all know it, give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. It is often displayed, sometimes in poster form, in helping agencies of various kinds, from Christian missions to development agency offices to NGO training facilities, and so on. The slogan encapsulates a certain development ethos, economically expressing a core belief that the object of development work is transformation, not charity, and that the recipients of aid should get productive skills and the opportunity to work, not handouts and dependency. Now, critical scholars have for many years now pointed out some of the problematic assumptions embedded in the give a man a fish cliche. Those attentive to issues of gender inequality have been quick to question the apparent assumption that the fisher is a man. Those more oriented to political economy have noticed instead the suggestion that poverty derives from primordial ignorance on the part of the poor, and have observed that poor people are in fact far more likely to lack the material means to enter an occupation like fishing, boats, motors, nets, access to water, and so on, than they are to be held back by a lack of knowledge. Students of indigenous knowledge, on the other hand, are likely to be most disturbed by the proverb's apparent faith that the external development worker is the bringer of empowering expert knowledge to be locals, when the truth is that people who live in local ecosystems are typically far from ignorant about the practical arts of making a living there, and indeed can usually put foreign would-be helpers to shame when it comes to such locally grounded and practical knowledge as how to catch fish.
It's a real honor to be able to present here in front of Professor Ferguson and all of you who came to join us. Today I would like to talk about globalizing efforts of Japanese corporations and some of the quite unintended outcomes. I believe that this topic is relevant to neoliberalism, for it shows how the top-down policy implementation fails because of its interaction with traditional organizational and institutional principles, but where at the same time free market laws allow for some desirable outcomes, though quite different than those designed at first. Recent globalization discourse in Japan has been closely linked to the need of finding a way from 2 decades-long economic stagnation. If Japanese businesses want to revitalize their competitive forces and survive the decline of the domestic market, undermined by an aging society and population decrease, they need to become more global. Actually, even the official Japanese growth strategy subtitle is Revitalizing Japan Through Global Business. One of the main challenges that corporations face in this context is how to hire appropriate people who would actually have enough experience and capabilities, as well as risk-taking spirit and confidence to change global expansion into the action. To respond to such issues, Japanese government and the Japanese Business Federation, Keidane, have created a set of official policy measures related to the creation of global human resources. First policy proposal was presented by the cabinet in June.
Since the early 2000s, there has been a continuous decline in the sales of physical albums worldwide. The music and recording industry has blamed this on the digitalization of music, which has fundamentally altered the ways in which people consume and think of music. Put otherwise, music is now basically viewed as free. While this has enriched consumer choices and access, as well as granted independent musicians wider exposure, the industry has suffered not only in terms of profit making, but also at the various levels of production. In order to cope with this, a variety of new strategies for obtaining revenue have emerged. These include changing the nature of record deals, downsizing production costs and relying more heavily on merchandise and touring, opting for music streaming and digital revenues, and shifting the responsibility to market and promote onto the artists themselves. Despite this, from the point of view of the recording industry, revenues from digital downloads do not come close to that of the revenue they once garnered from CDs. Furthermore, what we see is a variety of strategies with varying degrees of success, and there is no one model that has emerged as the new winning global formula. Part of this is because the industry, for the longest time, has been preoccupied with approaching the problem as a question of how do we regain what we have lost. The situation of revenue decline in Japan is similar. However, Japan is still the second largest CD buying market in the world. Despite that, Japan too has seen a decline in the sales of CDs, which peaked in 1998, and have continued to dwindle since. One of the many reasons that explains the continuation of a large CD buying market in Japan is the presence of highly segmented markets in which infrastructure and niche-based industries are very strong. In other words, there is a market and a system to support various genres with strong fan bases. However, this also creates the conditions for such industries to really milk the market, as they can exploit fans as a particular consumer strategy, taking advantage of fan loyalty and collective
governance practices in Brazil. So let me start by talking about a few recent events in Brazil and how they relate to my research. Some of you might have seen in the news that Brazil is currently facing important challenges in face of corruption scandals. And many of these scandals involve the misuse of state-owned enterprises. Resources for, let's put it in a nice way, unjustifiable purposes. So, recent studies made by the Federation of Industries in São Paulo estimate that corruption amounts to as much as 2.3% of Brazil's gross
handling the capital city of the Mexican state of Puebla. But I have spent my life between the city and the countryside in my parents' community. Some people might say that these people live in a traditional way, keeping traditions, running small businesses, farming the land, and I was happy living with them too. But then, because of my studies I left Mexico in 2012, the same year that in conditions about 48 million Chinese workers lost their jobs in the late 1990s. As many of you may already know, since 1978, the Chinese government has been mobilizing the whole country toward reform and opening up. And
The way that the corporate form calls into question a lot of common sense about the efficiency of markets. One can always hold is that everything has to be turned over to the market because the markets are so efficient. But actually the whole point of having a corporation is so that you can avoid the inefficiencies